Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hybrid Ops podcast. This is an ongoing process with a leadership series that we are creating. What we're doing is breaking down step by step the initial approach that it takes to leadership. We've gone through stewardship. We've gone through what it means to be a servant leader. We've broken down a multitude of different facets of how that looks. I've given several examples to be able to explain this is what the leadership looks like in action. Here's the example of things you would do. Discussed a lot about the different courage and the process. In the second series, I got in the difference between developing and teaching knowledge, what the difference of development is, and how to mentor. Again, with all examples within that. So today I want to discuss communication. Communication has got to be the most important tool for a leader to truly be able to reach and build their team. So if you think about communication, many times we know there's this audible utterance that we can create that is some form of communication one to another. That is not the type of communication that I am talking about. Leaders, you do not need to be heard. You need to learn to listen. Incredible communication. The best communicators understand how to read between the lines on what is not being said. But in order to do that, you must listen. Learning to truly hear what is being said and hear what is not being said is some of the most vital steps for a leader to learn. But there's good news. You can learn it. So first and foremost, it starts with actually slowing down and not thinking about what you want to say in response to what someone is saying. So let's go through these steps. To simplify, we will use 3 different steps that you would utilize in great communication. Number 1, clear your mind. So what does that look like? What does that mean to clear your mind? You may be thinking, I have all these other things going on, but you know that I have to worry about budgets, I have to worry about labor, I need to get a schedule out, I have things in my personal life that I need to worry about. Whatever that you're focused on, clear your mind and focus in. One of the great steps and abilities to do this is just to make eye contact. Don't space out. Don't start thinking about something else. Keep yourself engaged in the conversation by stopping as you're listening. Do not interrupt. But many times your team members are going to be communicating to you, and it could be an exploratory, long-running sentence about many different topics, many different areas, and a lot of times it could be emotionally charged. So it's important for you to slow down, listen to what's being said, and say, give me just 1 second. I want to repeat back to you what it is that you're saying to me so that I can ensure that I'm truly hearing what it is that you need me to hear. So to stay engaged in the conversation, you start to break it up. So you clear your mind. And number 2, you start to talk back the communication to make sure that you heard it correctly. The third step within that is asking questions. So if you clear your mind, you're listening to your team member's telling you a story, you're like, give me 1 second. I just want to make sure that I am hearing clearly what it is that you need me to focus on, what it is that you need me to take action on. They continue. What does that look like to you? You start asking particular questions. You're asking me to help you in this way. You have a problem that needs to be solved. Specifically speak back to them. I'm hearing you say this, but I want to make sure that I'm very clear on what it is that you need me to do. So what would the support that you're looking for What would you want me to do? What actions do you need me to take? What specifically is the outcome that you would like to see from this? And what kind of communication do you want back for me to be able to share with you what I did, how I took care of the situation, and to be able to help? One of the great things about being able to do this is that you put the ownership on the individual that you are communicating with. You're working through their expectations. You're utilizing their modality. You're using their language. And many times, especially if you're trying to diffuse a situation and you have an emotionally charged team member coming and everything is going wrong, you're able to calm them down simply by saying, all right, let me hear you out. You can empathize with them and say, I want to understand what you're going through. And yes, you have every right in this situation to feel that way. Acknowledge their feelings. You're going to get to diffusing it here in a moment. So you acknowledge their feelings. The second is then you start to say, but what would you do about it? What type of solutions? What would have been a situation that would have made you feel much better about the outcome? Within that, you start to put ownership on them to start creating the solutions with themselves. What you've done is you've opened their mind. You have to get it out of emotional and into logical. Once you're in a logical conversation, it's very easy then to hear exactly what is needed to be said, exactly what they want you to do, and then you're able to go and actually take care of that for them. So communication, what you say matters. How you say it matters. How you present yourself matters. The most important thing when you're speaking to someone in these situations is to truly let them know, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're going through. Now, you're asking me to help you. So if I'm going to help you, then I need to get you out of the headspace that you're in right now. And we have to find a more logical, creative process to be able to fix and create the solutions that you're looking for. Another part of communication is then guiding the conversation to where you need it. Communication is vital in any relationship. But being able to guide the conversation to a far healthier point of view is vital to the success of being able to create that partnership and that relationship to what you want it to be. All too often, leaders get themselves into situations where they like to hear themselves think. They like to hear themselves talk. They go into and they talk out loud versus thinking, really collecting their thoughts, listening to what their team is saying when they're in a meeting, and then interjecting key points that helps guide the conversation along. So if you're one-to-one, the example we just walked through of listening, focusing, clear your mind, be able to repeat back what it is that they said, and ask very clear and specific questions on how they need you to get involved and help in the situation. That's one-to-one. Now let's go to a group setting. When you're at a group setting, really being able to use your eye contact is very important. But let's start with a small group. Let's say you have team meeting, there's 10 to 20 people in the room. Normally when you have something like that that's going on, it is a team meeting, you're laying out some clear objectives, and you want to get the team's feedback on it, and you want to get them involved in the conversation. Within those particular types of arenas, several things can happen. No one can talk, and you as the leader take over the entire conversation and talk at your team. Or you can have everyone try to talk, and then emotions get into it because there's disputes, debates, maybe they keep going off topic. So it becomes a very unorganized, and it does not lack the efficiency that you need to be able to get stuff done. And then there's a lot of different ways in between that can go on. So it's important to structure a meeting in a way where you can create a lot of open and a lot of autonomy. So what does that look like? You don't want to have a complete structured, we're going to start the meeting at this time, 5 minutes in, we're going to discuss this, 10 minutes in, we're discussing this, 20 minutes in, because now you've just created this very rigid process. And why would you need that many different topics to discuss anyway? So you want to keep it simple. What's the one thing that you want to discuss? So if you're in business and you are discussing sales, you need to discuss labor, financial conversion. You're trying to figure out new products to bring in. Instead of covering each one individually, this is a great time for you to be able to say, we're going to discuss one thing, driving sales. Within that, here are some of the variables that go into our sales. We're going to create a brainstorming session around this. The meeting is going to last 45 minutes. We are not trying to come up with all the answers right now. We're going to brainstorm 2 very clear, actionable things that we can step out and go do tomorrow. From there, now you've set the stage. It's a 45-minute meeting. You gave them 2 things at the end of the meeting to get to. Now you open it up and you clearly say, let's brainstorm, throw everything out there. And now you start creating icebreakers. How do you get your team? And if you've worked with your team for a while, this should open immediately and your team just starts throwing out ideas. Everyone has, unique products they want to bring in, different types of marketing strategies, whatever that it may be. It's all depending on where you're at with your team and what you've created. Within that, as the communication starts and the dialogue starts, a leader's job at that point, listen, same thing, clear your mind, focus on what's being said across the room. Listen for ideas. Create something if you want where you whiteboard the entire thing. You just go through and start writing off all the ideas, or you have somebody take notes and they're putting all the notes in. Now you can leave a time frame for creativity. And maybe that's half the meeting. And then the second half of the meeting, you bring everybody together and you say, we have some great ideas. Here's all the ideas that we have. Now let's really define what it is that we want to do. Let's put some action behind this. And remember, to everyone, we are looking for 2 specific things that we can turn and start tomorrow. We can measure it, we can deliver it, and we will see results immediately. When you do that, you didn't go in as the leader and say, now I'm dictating which ones I like. I like this idea and this idea, let's go do those. Instead, you continue to refine the expectations and the accountability around what you want to see. But you're allowing your team full empowerment and autonomy to choose what is going to be the best steps to be able to go do that. This is where leaders make a big mistake in a communication in a group. Because instead of having the patience to be able to work through the process, you don't want a 2-hour, 3-hour, 4-hour, 5-hour long meeting. Your team is going to burn out, and you're not going to be as clear and precise in what you want to do. So you want to stick to your 45 minutes. But you want to train and teach your team to start to utilize their creativity wisely. So as long as you are listening and you continue to guide the conversation, you hear that your team's going off track. All you have to interject is that something that we could do tomorrow? Because it may be, we're going to do this incredible social media campaign. We're going to go get these influencers to talk about our products. Well, we have this new product that we're testing right now. We could launch that. Those are great. And what you do in those moments so that you don't shut your team down is you say, we will put those in our timeline. We need to discuss when is the time frame in which we want to launch those. So, great ideas. What are your ideas, though, that we could launch tomorrow? And you continue to bring your team back to that. At this point, you can start to refine what it is. Once you have those, you can put applicable actions to them through designation of your team. You're not trying to get two specific strategies, and then you're going to apply objectives, and then tomorrow we're going to do this and this and this. What you want is very, very clear things to where you can go and execute with your team. And then at the end of the meeting, you are assigning this group will take this one. This group will take this one. We need this part of this group to understand how to operationalize. This group is going to work on marketing. Now, roll it. By next meeting, bring in all of these particular strategies, how you're going to do this, and we will refine the process. Planning is such an underutilized tool for success. It is such an instinctual thing as a leader to just say, let's just make things happen. You need that. But without clear thoughts and without planning, your team has no idea what's going on in your brain. So to say, we're going to go do this, let's have it done by next week, you've set your team up for failure. Communication. This is what I am thinking about doing. This is the goal that we need to achieve. This is the measurement that we are going to use. And here is the desired results that it is imperative for us to achieve. Then you've already put the boundaries. You've put the constraints. You've set clear expectations of what it is that you want to go and achieve. Now you give the freedom to your team to say, I don't care how we achieve these things. You have the goals and the expectations. You allow them to grow and to learn through that process. So it's two-step that you're doing here. Number one, you are teaching them to be a good listener. They need to constantly know this is my goal and I need to go achieve that. But you're showcasing your ability to communicate. And then questions that you can ask as a leader. Is the objectives clear? Are the expectations clear? Do you know what role that you play in this overall strategy? Do you know why we have chosen this strategy? Do we all align and agree that this is the right direction to go? Unilaterally, you have full buy-in. You have everyone's, at that point, commitment on exactly what it is that you're trying to achieve. Everyone knows the expectations. Everyone's very clear about what you're wanting to achieve. Now, you allow space for them to be able to learn, grow, and to be able to put all that into an applicable nature. This over time, this process over time, through my experience, I can share with you what I have seen. I would start out doing this exact same thing. I would break groups off into 3 different areas. Number 1 would be a complete operational. How are we going to execute this? What steps we need to take? What labor is it going to look like? What's going to be the process? Structure it, detail it, map it, line it out, put the dates to it. Who's doing what? Operational team. Number 2, marketing team. How are we engaging with our customer? How are we getting the messaging out there? What does the decor look like that we want to utilize? What is the social media presence that we're going. They design all that. They put it into creative. They go from all those steps. That's another team. Third team, innovation. The innovation team is thinking outside the box to create something that maybe hasn't ever been done before. And if it has, then we enhance it. Their whole process now is to work within each other, because anyone that's innovating something must run it by the operations team, and the operations team is going to be very cautious about rolling out anything that is not easy to execute. So now you have three teams that are having to work together. This teaches them to negotiate, to build the rapport and relationships with one another. And then you alternate those teams out within your planning sessions. What it creates is that when I started these processes, it would take 4 or 5 hours for a planning session to get ready, such as in a supermarket to get ready for, say, Christmas or Thanksgiving. Planning out a 50 to 80,000 square foot store. You take that to unilaterally where I'm at now. I work with a group to plan out 10 to 15 people that are overseeing 260 business units, hundreds of millions of dollars. It's a lot more at stake. Same process. It works for every single step, every single process, every single model. The key to this is that you get your team to a point where they are so good at planning. Those planning sessions now go back to that 45 minutes to an hour max. You come in, you know exactly what you're doing. Your teams are bringing in information ahead of time. I already know the operations I want to do. I already have the marketing plan built out. I have the innovations built out. They bring them in. Now you're brainstorming. You're driving sales. You get very clear on it. You don't have to go and say, build this spreadsheet, build this tracker, roll it out this way. This is the communication that's going to the field. Here's the expectations. Here's the revenue goals. All that stuff is already built in. The teams already have designed these tools so it becomes sustainable. And the most important thing when you're communicating to a large group, you're teaching them how to plan. You're teaching them how to listen. You're teaching them how to communicate with one another. You're teaching them how to critically think about the steps and the actions that they're taking. This creates sustainability outside of yourself as a leader. It gets to a point where you as a leader can start thinking about a lot larger projects, and even to the point where you can hand off a part of this planning session and allow them to bring it to you to maximize your time. So communication from a single person, one-on-one, can go from an emotional encounter to team members and individuals holding themselves accountable and have a maturation in leadership to get to a point where they themselves become the solution and start to create all the processes and standards even before it's brought to you. So if you're a leader that gets bogged down, you're constantly having to remind your team. You're having to go to your team members and explain yourself over and over. You say to yourself many times, I have told them how to do this. I have shown them how to do this. You need to stop and really take inventory and pull apart the way that you're communicating. Most importantly, are you getting head nods from your team, or are they really engaged and you are asking questions? Does this make sense? Are we all aligned? Do we agree this is the right direction? Explain to me what it is that we've agreed upon. I think way too often leaders are afraid to ask the team, hey, walk me through your understanding of what it is that we have decided to do. It's vital. Create the space so they feel comfortable. Let them know, hey, it's okay if you don't understand. I lead in by that. I realize you probably don't understand or know anything that I just said. Help me explain it in a way that makes sense to you, that you can truly take it in, you can put this into action, because the last thing I want to do is look up 2 to 3 weeks from now and I'm asking you, why don't you have that done? And the reason why you don't have it done is because I didn't explain it very well. We didn't go through the steps. I didn't ask you the right questions. I did not make sure that you truly understood what it was we were accomplishing. So you don't understand the benefits. You don't understand the why. You're not aligned to the process. You don't have ownership or buy-in into it. And ultimately, you don't even know what role that you play into it. And you can see where the success in that is going to be zero. Leadership is about patience. Leadership is about everlasting patience. It's about constant teaching, constant reminding yourself that you must continue to grow. You must continue to learn. You need to show your team. You need to be involved with your team. You need to ask your team questions. You need to pull out their talents. You need to listen to them. You need to receive the feedback that is given to you. You do not take offense. You don't let your ego get involved, and you improve on every single thing, because if there's anything you see in your team you don't like, it is a direct reflection as you as a leader. You are the ones that are failing your team if something is happening that you don't want to happen. Either it's your vision, your strategy, your objectives, your communication, your listening skills. Whatever it is, if your team is failing in something, it is because you are failing as a leader. Very clearly, take ownership for it. Believe in it. Grow. Learn. Create the space for your team to be able to share with you what they do know and what they don't know. And most importantly, learn how to be a great listener. Communicate. Over-communicate. Repeat yourself. Do not say, I want to do this today, and then next week you change your mind. And the last thing to share, do not assume. The last thing that you should ever do, and the worst thing you could do as a leader, other than treat your team bad, is assume that your team understands what it is that you want them to accomplish. Detail it, document it, make sure that they believe it, make sure they see it, make sure they understand the why, make sure they can repeat it back to you, make sure they can teach it, they can explain it. Roll the process out and listen to the feedback that they give you on how you can improve. So again, part of the leadership series, I will tackle each one of these topics. We'll dive in deep. This one, we're kind of just hitting the surface of communication. We'll dig into the multitudes of different styles of communication and the different ways. Today, again, just as a reference, this one was how do you communicate one-on-one, what to do with that, how to plan out a small group meeting, and we'll get into what is it like from professional speaking or speaking to large groups and different ways to be able to carry yourself, how you get to a point where you don't say and like and all these other things. It's all about focus, and we'll get into what that looks like and how to teach that. With that, this is Hybrid Ops. As always, thank you for listening. Love to hear any comments, any reactions, anything that you would like for us to get into. With that, thank you. Appreciate it.